Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kyle Nash, the student of the game of Fans First Sports Network. Welcome to the Duval Dive.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
It was a great intro. I changed it up on you and everything. And you could listen to this thing on the Believe Podcast Network. Folks, obviously, I know a lot of you Duval devout out there are still super high on Monday night, and rightly so. But as Travis and I like to do for you out there, you Duval divers, you members of the Duval Devout, we like to keep the lows not too low and the highs not too high. Now, granted, on the Duval Dive Live, we did have a lot of fun with that, and you know, you guys were excellent and hyped and ready to go, just as one would suspect in such a situation. But some things I wanted to talk about personally, and Travis just happened to agree with me, is all the depth that's come to step up lately, and also depth in the roster that's going to need to step up moving forward. I think there's a lot going on there, you know, not just in the thumbnail with Jonah Monheim, of course, but before we go and get into who needs to step up, how or what it is that causes the need to step up comes in the form of the injury report. We have Wednesday's report here. And Travis insists I open with this, mostly because I think he wanted to scare me deeply. Obviously, Yasir Abdullah and De'Ami Brown are at the top there, but I see quickly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 offensive linemen who are limited participation or did not practice on Wednesday, which I'm a little concerned about that happening. Of course, as I think what the only starter, Travis, that's not limited in practice in some way on Wednesday was Walker Little, right? Oh, you muted yourself, bro. Let me get you right here.
My apology. Yes, man. You're not wrong, sir. That's the interesting part about this is Walker Little's the only one that is healthy out of all of those guys. I mean, everyone's kind of limited or simply did not practice with, Robert Hainsey. He was a DNP on Wednesday with this hamstring injury that he left Monday's win with. I mean, fortunately, this is why we're talking about the depth, is the fact that Jonah Monheim did play so well. But then you have a lot of these guys. I mean, you got Trevon Walker, who was also, he practiced with his wrap/cast, whatever you want to call it, over his wrist and hand areas. So that was his first practice since, Saturday's practice after his surgery on his wrist. And Coach Liam Cohen previously advised that he didn't play this past game on Wednesday just because he had additional swelling, that they wanted to give it a little bit more time to go down, see where he lands there. I mean, you already talked about it. Anton Harrison, he has his elbow. He was limited. He left the game temporarily on Monday. Chuma Ndoga had to come in for him, I believe, which is his third game this season, having to step in for Anton. Did a reasonably solid job there. Patrick McCarry had his knee issue. Ezra Cleveland with his ankle. Chuma Ndoga with his knee. And all of those guys were limited participants on Wednesday. So, like I said, they just sound like they're a little roughed up right now. But it's no worse than the Seattle Seahawks injury report, which
before you jump to the other side, there is a name we didn't mention who's not on the injury report, and that's because he's on IR, and that would be our own Brenton Strange. Robert in the comments, Strange being out, BTJ and Hunter better step up with not dropping the ball. Well, and I think we saw that happen with the Chiefs game there too. There's a lot going on, and well, I'll put it through. There's a few things I think the comments will come up with. Of course, we have Preston from Monday night there says, "What's up? Trevor equals Seabiscuit. Is that because of all the running?" I don't know where you're going there. I don't know.
I guess that's the running. Seabiscuit is the horse, right? I believe. Something like that. That makes sense.
And then what a game last Monday night. Trevor Lawrence is the king of entertainment, be it comedy, tragedy, or drama. I suppose all of those are accurate there. Too, for sure.
That's pretty fair. Unfortunately, I mean, I say no. There's no unfortunately about it. That's exciting. It's no different than the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Trevor Lawrence is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville Jaguars, aka the Cardiac Cats. They're going to give you a heart attack, but you're going to love it every step of the way and hate it at the same time because it's so exciting, but also so much of a wild ride. That's it. That is basically what it is, and in very many ways, he is the Duval quarterback. It makes total sense to me.
So, but yeah, I mean, talking about all the injuries, talking about all the big performances from Monday and how some of the backups for the rest of the game look good whether it's Jonah Monheim at center, who I had great things to say about. Granted, we're coming to find out that maybe stopping Chris Jones wasn't the monumental thing I thought it was with the rewatch of some of the tape. But nonetheless, that line holding up the way they did so Trevor could literally get up and run back into the end zone still does matter 100%. But yeah, you were about to jump in to the Seahawks injuries and who it is the depth may need to battle and consider themselves there.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the gist of it, is like they have a lot of guys on their injury report also. So I'm going to just give both sides of that coin. Since we're in Duval County, we almost never talk about the other team's injuries. And I think a lot of the time they have a very big impact on the game. So let's talk about it. Like Seattle's starting safety, Julian Love, did practice on Wednesday as he's dealing with the hamstring injury, and he also missed their Week 5 game to that same injury. Their starting slot cornerback, Tariq Woolen, he left Seattle's Week 5 loss to the Buccaneers with a concussion, so he's in the protocol right now. He was limited on Wednesday, but again, Wednesday was a walkthrough, so he could still do that with a concussion. And their starting cornerback, Devin Winterspoon, also missed Week 5 with a knee injury after he got an early week MRI. The Seahawks head coach Mike McDonald, he said that he would try to return to practice this week to play against Jacksonville. So we're just going to have to wait and see if he gets any full practices in this week. So it's quite possible that the Seahawks could again, for the second week in a row, be down multiple people in their secondary against the Jaguars. So again, we'll see where that lands. And also DeMarcus Lawrence, the linebacker, he didn't practice on Wednesday with his quad injury, and his backup was also did not participate with the oblique injuries, and he's already expected to miss the game. So if Lawrence don't play and the backup doesn't play and they're down guys in the secondary, I mean, you're talking about the passing game having no reason not to have an explosive day, similar to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers having a very explosive day with 38 points in Week 5. It kind of almost leans into like you have to have a good day just because these are backups to backups sometimes playing in some of these roles.
Well, and first of all, you mentioned we don't talk about injuries very much. The other time we spoke of injuries was the other NFC West victory over there in San Francisco, where we on this show had said they had so many injuries. This was an opportunity to be a team that was good. And if you don't, how much improved are you? Well, they've lived up to the past two tests. I think the mental test here is going to be the big one for the Jags. Is can they come on a short week off of a high? Remind me, Travis, I'm flaking out. Are they flying across, or is this in Duval?
This is in Duval. Yeah, they're flying across to Duval County. Now, unfortunately for Seattle, I should say, they generally have a good road record, which I thought was very interesting. I guess that's just a sign of a well-coached team, generally speaking. But this is also not, a regime. This isn't the Pete Carroll regime. Like, this is a newer regime, so I'm not 100% sure what weight that really holds here. But I mean, so we'll see what happens with the Seattle Seahawks in a very injured team, a generally gritty team, but nevertheless, very injured team traveling across from coast to coast to play in Duval County, in the longest road trip you can probably make inside of the continental U.S.
All accurate. And it's funny, your interpretation of seeing those injuries was, the pass game. I went a completely different direction. There's three linebackers on that humpy bumpy, and Jonah Monheim, a center who's known for mobility, that second level feasting right there. I expect a lot of running. Who knows? Maybe it ends up being balanced because of it at day's end. But and to your point, I think this is an opportunity. If we had seen last year as analysts, you as a fan, whatever it is, pick the context. I don't care. But last year's offensive line, were there this many injuries, everybody would be braced for a day of struggling for that offense. Fair. I'm not feeling that here necessarily. Granted, part of it is because of the Seattle Seahawks situation. I don't want to cheapen what they're dealing with by any stretch of the imagination. But this is going to be a game that's made fascinating. Granted, I would rather people not be hurt to bring fascination. Obviously, I miss Britton strains already. I felt ways about hearing that news. I'm not going to lie, but yeah, I think all of the above will make this a fascinating football game, and certainly not the simpler affair we might have thought.
So I have so many ways I want to go with this right now, but I've also when we've brought up the Brenton Strange being placed on IR thing already. We've talked about Travon Walker and whether or not he may or may not play. And we still have the Jonah Maheim piece of all this because there's so much depth to talk about because you're playing with the Jacksonville Jaguars organization that's very similar to the Rams, that they're just leaning into this youth movement and they have the injuries and the guys are all playing well. So I'm just going to go, if you don't mind, let's just start with the Travon Walker because, again, we've already talked about the fact that he practiced for his second time after his surgery in a limited fashion with the cast on. Assuming his swelling can go down, maybe he can dress up for this game. Maybe he won't. We'll see kind of where that lands throughout the week. But we have the guys who played in his absence. Primarily, you're talking Dwan Smoot, you're talking Emmanuel Agba, you're talking those guys in that rotational role with Josh Hines-Allen playing on both ends of the defensive line. And I think they reasonably had a reasonably solid game for those who's listening on the audio. We're showing the Jaguars pressures versus this Chiefs via Pro Football Focus. Mason Smith had 4 pressures in the game. Josh Hines-Allen with 3. Emmanuel Agbo with 3. Dennis Gardeck and Devin Lloyd both had 2. Tyson Campbell, and Dewey Wingert, and Foye Oluokun, Jordan Lewis, and Eric Armstead all had 1 pressure in the game. The reason I'm kind of noting those is basically I just kind of want to just say Emmanuel Agba had 25 pass rushes in the game, and he had 3 pressures. I think that's a reasonably solid game for him in back-to-back weeks because he also had 4 pressures against the 49ers after he didn't have any pressures on 71 pass rushes in the first few games. So, that's an uptick for him. I think that's actually deserves to be shouted out. On the other side of that line, you got Dwan Smoot, who had 21 pass rush opportunities in this game with no pressures, no sacks. So that was you'd want to see him get something, and I can't just every play is going to be a little bit different, unfortunately. So it's kind of hard to say, well, was he cage rushing on this one, or was he told not to, crash on the quarterback? What was it? But at the end of the day, you kind of hoping those are the guys you need to step up because Travon Walker's not there, and those are your other big edges. But also shout out Mason Smith, man. 4 pressures, and he only had 12 pass rush attempts. That's crazy.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's we've shouted him out, and I mean, we'll put it this way. I like where you went with Smoot containing Patrick Lavon Mahomes II. Granted, he was the leading rusher for his team, but I think there's a lot of elements where he was contained. That was a big part of it. By the way, Dennis Gardeck with 2 pressures. I wasn't ready for that, but I'll take it for sure.
I mean, but that's what they want. That's what they want that third linebacker to be able to do, especially in this defense. I mean, you knew that as soon as they had, Jalen McLeod and Yasir Abdullah as your other guys there. It's like, oh, okay, that's going to be a pass rush and stat linebacker role. I got you. I understood that immediately. And so, shout out Dennis Gardeck, just balling out of control, whether it's in the pass rush, whether it's punching the ball out in previous weeks, just getting it done in any way, anyhow.
And I think you were lending a little bit more credence to the concept that Travon Walker might be missing, or the Jags front office may be comfortable sitting him down another week. Storm the Desert in the comments points something interesting out. Darnold sees ghosts in Jags. Now, granted, he's not referencing that clip from back in the day. There's an actual stat that backs this, right? 6 interceptions in his last 2 starts in Jacksonville, and that was against some pretty awful Jaguars defenses. I think that's a fine point. And especially with a dude like Campanelli who throws all sorts of junk at you, I'm pretty sure I've seen a kitchen sink on the sideline. I'm just throwing it out there.
Bro, if you understood how much stats I got in the folder right now for Friday's Duval Dive game preview already for Sam Donald. I don't even know his middle name, but I need to Google it by Friday.
Because he does not deserve middle name status. Do not. I want
to give him middle name status on the other end of the equation. Just because he is not good against pressure. And that's going to be very interesting when you're going against a defensive coordinator who just loves to throw it at you. So I'm very curious to see what it's going to be like. And we're going to talk about some comments also on Friday's Duval Dive. So I'm looking forward to it. And we got a few comments for you today here also.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. You guys have been jumping in like you always do. We don't mean to cheapen that. Storm follows up. Also, Jags depth is starting to show out. Guys are hurt, but it doesn't seem in the like the end of the world. Unlike in years past, he went full Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Well, these guys, they're hurt. It doesn't matter if they're hurt. That's basically what he's telling you right now.
That's pretty factual, though. Like, that's the fact of the matter is the Jaguars always had such limited depth that you just felt like they had to make it through the season. If you could just survive, maybe you had a praying chance of making it to the playoffs or a praying chance to be competitive. And now it's just like, oh, we brought in competition. And what does competition look like? Competition means these are guys who might actually take your job. And that also means if they get hurt, it's not such a gulf between the next guy in line where you don't feel like you just the season's over because you lost a starting left guard, or you lost because you lost the starting corner for 2 weeks, or a starting tight end for maybe 4 weeks. Like, so because of that, them bringing in competition and not just putting guys in the starting position with a permanent marker heading into the season and drafting depth, you now have options, man. This has always felt so obvious, but I'm happy to see again a general manager, a head coach, an EVP actually lean into that and just say, nah, man, let them fight and see what happens.
Let them fight. I like that. And then Sunstain asks, corner depth, you mean Buster? Well, I mean, it ain't just Monteric Brown, although he's been a factor, let's be clear.
I mean,
but doesn't Travis Hunter count as corner?
That's why I think it's funny that people still view Travis Hunter as the starting corner, which he is the eventual starting corner, but he is corner depth. Your cornerback one, as much as folks in Duval County, as much as this to their chagrin may not love it, is Tyson Campbell. Your cornerback two is Jordan Lewis. So that would make Travis Hunter in every way your cornerback depth. As good as he is, and as much as he may be the eventual cornerback one, even by the end of the season, maybe he is depth in the very sense of the definition of the word. So sorry, not sorry. Yes, Travis Hunter is what I mean.
And as you were just spitting the fire you were, might I remind you, sir, you didn't even use Jarian Jones' name. So yeah, that's what we mean by corner depth.
And I didn't even name Buster Brown, who also was a top 3 performer for Pro Football Focus for the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. And let's get into it. I mean, we're already here.
You mentioned Buster Brown, but the comment did. It's okay.
I mean, the comment mentioned it, so let's talk about it. Like the top 5 players for the Jacksonville Jaguars via Pro Football Focus in Week 5 versus the Kansas City Chiefs was number 1, cornerback Travis Hunter, 82.9 grade. Defensive end Josh Hines Allen with an 80.8. And cornerback Monteric Brown was 3rd in line with a 79.7. Devin Lloyd was a 4th with a 78.8. And wide receiver Travis Hunter, just in case you forgot about him, playing on both sides of the ball, was 5th in line at a 77. So Travis Hunter makes the list twice, but I just don't want to lose in the shuffle of all of this. Monteric Brown was your 3rd-rated player and your 2nd-rated corner in this game. Like, he did play a really good game this week.
That's absolutely bonkers. I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, first of all, the fact that I looked at, isn't that Travis's name twice? Oh, wait, there's a WR on the second one. Damn it. You messing people up so bad. So when he's on offense, do I?
He said Buster with the question mark, like Buster didn't make one hell of a play late in the game and play a solid amount of snaps and coverage, and you didn't hear his name called as far as the guy getting beat.
Well, I mean, yeah, when two people, it's funny. You and I, who are hosts of the show, Travis, play the positions whose names you want to hear less. Granted, at the end of the day, if you get a pick or a pick 6, you want to hear your name there, sure. But every other time, you nor I want our names called as offensive linemen nor corners. It's a great point.
Yeah, man. So
you don't talk about that enough.
You just mentioned it. That's offensive lineman. All right, cool. Let's talk about offensive lineman. I mean, look at the guy whose name is on. Sorry, not name. Whose photo with this glorious, glorious hair. I mean, he's competing with Trevor Lawrence for the best hair on the team.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Jonah Monheim, bro. Liam Cohen discussed Monheim early in this week's media availabilities. You should have saw the completion to BTJ down the right sideline. Jonah Monheim had Chris Jones one-on-one, holding his own. Quint Allen came in and chipped, though. Everybody's got a lot of confidence in Jonah. He's earned it. There is no flinch. And if you don't know the completion he is talking about, or if you haven't seen any of the clips on the socials of Jonah Monheim's blocking, we got you. Well, let's just talk about it. A little show don't tell. Like, Jonah Monheim is your center who is, again, blocking. The defensive lineman gets no pressure. In the run game, you got Monheim's blocking and combo blocking, getting over to the linebacker, getting him out of the hole. Right. You see what I see. This man is playing dominant, bro. for me, I had questions on him heading into the season, and I'm just like, oh, okay, no, he's good. And there's your play to BTJ down the sideline with him with Chris Jones 1-on-1, and then LaQuint Allen coming over to give him a little bit of help. Like, that's the play that we were talking about. 1-on-1, little shot to the rib cage by LaQuint Allen, and a dime by Trevor, bro.
And for those who are watching, or rather who are listening on the pod and can't watch the video, the one I liked at the last portion there, speaking specifically to Monheim, although, hey, I love BTJ handling business in a big moment there. Let's be clear about that. That gap in the middle, the defensive split at the tackle position was pretty wide. And one might argue, Kyle, he gave up some ground blocking the D tackle. It's because as the center, if you see a gap that wide, that's usually becomes, I mean, it's another version of our good friend Big Game James and MFer ball, in my opinion. If there's no MFers there in that gap, some MFers are about to come. That's typically the rule. Now, no one did. So Jonah Monheim gave up a little bit of ground to the tackle, regained his footing, held things up. Trevor completes the throw. It's an excellent play, even on one where he's giving up some ground.
That's it, man. And again, that's just the Monheim part of the conversation. We're talking about depth guys and how they perform. Let's not forget about Chuma Edoga also. Like I already talked about him earlier. That's his third time this season having to come in for Anton Harrison, who this time temporarily left the game. You know, he limped off the field and he's on the injury report with this elbow injury. So I'm not sure what made him leave the game. But when he left the game, Edoga still played very well, and specifically in the run game, I noticed him on the rewatch. Like, he did have a solid game, and overall, with as far as the pressures are concerned, Anton Harrison this week gave up 5. Robert Hainsey gave up 2. Patrick McCarry gave up 2. Monheim did have 1 pressure, and Ezra Cleveland also had 1. You don't see Edoga on there. You don't see Walker Little on there also, as far as any pressures given up this week versus the Kansas City Chiefs. So, thought it was a reasonably solid week against the Chiefs because I didn't notice anything like that was so crazy, other than the fact that Trevor Lawrence did have to run a lot. And because he did have those 10 carries, one of them was a quarterback sneak. The rest of them were basically designed passes. You kind of have to, some pressure was there from the Kansas City Chiefs just because Trevor felt like he needed to run, and that was because of the pressure. So I get that it happened, but I did miss the comment that you just had up just because.
Yeah. Well, and it was a general comment. Don't storm the desert. A lot of our depth plays up. A lot of our depth play snaps too. Smoot and Ogba have played snaps. Long and Munt. Long's been scoring touchdowns. Crap. Have played snaps.
That's why we're about to talk about too. The tight end depth. So thank you, Storm. You were putting us right on line with just talking about everyone we need to talk about, because that's the point of the matter is, we are still this deep into talking about all the guys who are available to help the Jacksonville Jaguars and who actually have in real games, in real big moments, help the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you just mentioned the tight end position. We already talked about the fact that Jaguars placed Brenton Strange on injured reserve. He had a hip/quad injury in the second quarter of Monday. Just FYI, he's eligible to return as early as week 11 versus the Chargers, that home game. So Jacksonville's going to face Seattle, Los Angeles Rams, Las Vegas Raiders, and the Texans in Houston in those 4 weeks, including the bye week also. So it's the big loss. Let's not BS it. I'm going to be real honest about that, because Brenton Strange has been Trevor Lawrence's top receiver option as far as success rate and first down rate. He entered the game in week 5, leading the team with 20 receptions and also was leading the team with 204 yards. Again, he's not leading the team now because of Brian Thomas Jr.'s big day, but entering the week, he was the leading receiver in both catches and yards. So Hunter Long, Johnny Munt, everything, who the Storm the Desert just mentioned, and the recently signed Quentin Morris, who was just signed to the active roster, all kind of have an opportunity to step up during Strange's absence. Now, on Monday, I almost said Sunday. On Monday, both Hunter Long and Johnny Munt combined for 2 catches on 2 targets for 10 yards. So that's not exactly what you want to see in the passing game, in replacement of Strange. But we've seen Long catching, red zone touchdowns this season. He caught 2 touchdowns in the first 4 games.
I don't know if the game plan called for them catching it like that in this one, though, Travis, especially when you have Trevor, running, A, B, by the way, if he's running, guys making plays downfield with blocks is going to be tight ends typically. And I felt like they were taking more shots down the field. As good as this secondary was, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I felt like they were attacking down the field more in this game than they had in games past. It was fascinating to me that they did that.
Oh yeah, but it was also interesting because I think the Kansas City Chiefs, and I would need to look up the specific data to just confirm it. We talked about it the whole week about the fact that the Chiefs like to come out in those two high shells often. Like that's kind of their bread and butter. But they played a lot more one high than I expected to see in this game. Like I think they knew going into it they had to stop the Jaguars running game, and a lot of those big play opportunities you'd see it wasn't against two high safeties. It was one high situations where they rolled the guy down. It's like, oh, so the Chiefs are doing something different, that they felt like they needed to do something different against the Jaguars than what they historically would do. I thought that was interesting.
Do they feel like they needed to do it, or was it a lack of respect for Trevor coming into this football game, having only completed one pass past 20 yards? And I think he had at least two in the game.
Daring him to beat him, and then he does.
If that doesn't sound like a Spagnuolo thing, I don't know what does, Travis.
Well, it was funny because I've had some great like interesting conversations with a lot of the guys from the Kansas City media. Nice guys also.
Oh, they're awesome. Yeah.
And that was a big part of the conversation, was like them thinking like he doesn't respect Trevor Lawrence. You can see it by the way he's calling this. And in my head, I'm just like, well, nah, man. Like if you're looking at the way Trevor's running this thing, like running with his legs on the ground, he is going to run him out of that defense. Like he is going to run them out of these two high looks and these quarters and these cover two looks, because every time he runs it, it's like, oh Jesus, I'm going to have to do something different to stop this guy from running the ball, because now he's run it freaking 10 times for 50 something yards. Now he's truly using them as a weapon. Now I have to put another guy in the box, which then leans right into what Trevor Lawrence wants you to do, because now he can pass the ball. It was a beautiful competition on both sides of just chess and trying to see who's going to blink first, I guess, in that way.
And yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, the overcoming of the mistakes and not being the one. And it's funny, they're the people out there. Well, the Chiefs had 13 penalties. How can you complain about the officials? Stop box score watching, folks.
They should have had 26.
I mean.
Let's be real, bro. Let's be real. I talked about it after the game and said I love the fact that the refs at least let them play. And then as I did the rewatch article, and I'm just seeing guys getting tackled all over the dang place. I mean, like the Jaguars rushers being tackled on multiple occasions. There was one play Dennis Garnett was put into a headlock by Jawan Taylor and literally DDT'd on the ground, and they didn't call a hold. And I was like, yo, what is this? But it was funny, but also not. Like, yeah, that was some interesting refereeing for sure.
So, I mean, we don't want to spend a lot of time on that, because the only reason I do is it just puts another sweetener on the Jags handling business. Like, really, for all the things that they had to go right their way in that 49er game where they kind of held on, there was so much that went wrong for the Jags. Like, Travis, do you understand? Up until that 99-yard touchdown return, I had already the speech in my head about, well, Travis, this is what it looks like when you beat yourself, blah, 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 just like the Niners did. Well, what happened was.
I mean, yeah, but that's what it takes. Sometimes it's just that one play. That game could have honestly gone either way. And I hate the people that, to your point, do the box score watching and then they come up with a whole new narrative based on the outcome of maybe one or two plays. Because that's really what we're talking about. The Jaguars could have won this game by 7 points, could have won this game by 14 points, could have lost this game by 7 or 14 points. And the narrative around all of it would have been totally different. And I think that's just real funny when you really are talking about the coin flip of how the ball lands or whatever else. Like if Devin Lloyd drops that ball instead of intercepting it and they score the next play or something like that. Like, I hate the fact that is so different, because the Jaguars played essentially the same game. And I think they also did beat themselves in some ways. I mean, again, Trevor Lawrence taking a sack in the one situation where you just cannot take a sack. When you're less than 2 minutes left, you're going into your own red zone. The clock's running. You can't take a sack. You take a sack anyways instead of throwing the ball away when you have an obvious opportunity to do so. You take a delay of game penalty on that same drive with 15-yard line at that point. come on, bro. Like you trip and fall when you're stepped on coming from on the money play with the clock would have been running and you run it in. Like I acknowledge that there are very many ways this game could have gone differently, and there are some things got you scratching your head, but also you're doing it in a winning effort. So
I mean, I find it Duval. Yeah, it was always the Jags. No, see, here's the thing. For all the stuff you mentioned, thoroughly valid as all of it was, Travis. I find it interesting. The one thing you didn't mention in all of that was Doug Peterson hacking the sound system and having Trevor leap over the top. What are we doing? Come on.
Well, we know Doug them hated that though. Doug impressed them. They hated that Trevor did it, and they always knew it was Trevor calling his own play.
Right.
And to his credit, Liam said it's a coaching moment for Trevor. In other words, I don't want him doing that either. He's like, he was in a tush push situation. We got to be careful not to put the ball over the top. In other words, we didn't want him to do that either. Doug didn't want him to do it. Press didn't want him to do it. We don't want him doing it either. Keep the ball low. They're going to push you in. You're going to score a touchdown. And everybody's going to be happy. You got to learn not to do it because it was already on film. So the Chiefs obviously knew it was coming also.
Well, moreover, it's the one part of that line where they are going to be the most stout. No disrespect to Carl Loftus. I think he's a fine player, but that interior is the most dangerous. I don't know.
These comments are racking up, boy. Let's play a little bit of catch up and let these Duval have their say. My apologies, sir. We got to talking about ball, and sometimes we just lose track of it. My apologies, guys.
We've been flashing them as we're going, but I mean, this group's just having intelligent conversation, man. I'm not gonna laugh. I'm not gonna diss a lot of it at all, for sure.
That they are. And while Kyle is finding the next comment, I just wanted to give the Jaguars, pass blockers a good shout out with the third pass block win rate for this season, second in run block win rate, and first in overall turnover differential, which is both the defense and the offense. Obviously, the offense limiting turnovers, but the defense is being dominant at getting them. That's according to ESPN metrics and next gen stats. So they've been balling out of control. I meant to mention that earlier, but that's just an overall team kind of conversation with the offensive line included. Like they're doing their thing overall, bro. What you got?
No, I mean, there's a lot going on. I'll start with this one just because I want to address it in general. Long was wide open for the touchdown on one of the Travis Hunter.
Oh, he was the backside. He was the backside tight end going into the flats, and he might have scored on the Travis Hunter long reception where he jumps over the defender and gets tackled by the second guy. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I do too. Well, and I'm going to leave with this. If you're the third read and you break open, sometimes you're just not going to get found if you're the third read. That's just what it is, man.
Yeah, and Coach Cohen talked about the fact that Travis Hunter and Trevor Lawrence practiced the play after practice 5 times because they struggled originally hitting it, and they kind of just wanted to get it right. So they practiced doing it after practice until they got it right, and then they see it like they see the fruits of their labor, completing the long ball in the game. And in my head, I'm still like, dang it, but it still could have been a touchdown because that's the level that I hold Trevor Lawrence to. So folks think they're like, dude, why are you always like giving him such a hard time? I'm like, I'm not trying to give the quarterback a hard time, but I'm being real with you when I say I hold Trevor Lawrence to this standard.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how he's playing, if it's above or below that line, I'm still going to give him all the credit for the win, and I'm still going to let you know, did he meet that standard? I think he did generally meet that standard for this week's game, while still acknowledging that he left some meat on the bone, in the words of Coach Cohen, or I guess in the words of myself on Monday.
On Monday, we both called it out, right? Yeah. Hey, great win. What the hell was that? It was exactly how you put it. If you want to reference our short on the Duval Dive YouTube channel or on TikTok, by the way. So
that's all I get at. It's like when I tell people, I'm like, you would not want to watch film with me, because when I watch film, that's exactly what I'm looking at. Like, what the hell was that? What the hell was that? Or that was incredible, or like whatever it is. Just like these guys watch film, because that's how I watched it when we played ball. So in my head, I'm just like, all right, cool. That was a great pass, but also it could have been a touchdown if Trevor would have led him. Hell of a play, Travis Hunter. But all those things can still be true, and it can still be an amazing throw and an amazing catch overall. Like
this is something I think that's fascinating coming in from Preston Timms. The 14-0 didn't bother me as much as I would have thought.
Because you knew you could have had a touchdown. Because they knew they had the touchdown on the 1 yard line, that opportunity there. Like you knew it was still a game. And I think that helped also, because they did eventually score after getting down to 14-0. Like, so you weren't down for very long. So I can understand why you felt okay about it as soon as you're going into the half, what I believe it was 14-7 at that point.
And I hate to go to Preston again, but he brings up something too that I think is definitely a change from this year. A team with talent like I think we have can get out of having a lot of, if it's not one thing, it's another kind of moments. It's hard to beat. Yeah, they don't find the quicksand like last year. And I think that certainly is accents Monday night for absolute clarity. I don't know what more I can add beyond that, but
but why you're looking for the next one. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to LaQuint Allen, not just for his blocking in the passing game, but he was also, for anyone who didn't take a look at the Big Cat Country post game write up, shame on you, but also take a look. He was the special teams player of the game for me, just edging out Ray Lane because the Chiefs were purposefully kicking away from running back Bashaw Tootin in the kickoffs. And they were directly kicking to LaQuint Allen, who ended up averaging basically 32 yards per return, pretty religiously giving the ball to the Jacksonville Jaguars offenses at around the 40-yard line, to the point where it's when teams are purposefully kicking to you just because they're scared of the other guy and you still making them pay very religiously. Like, I think you deserve the accolades again on top of his dominant pass blocking. Like, that's just more depth to talk about.
I'll say this, and by the way, this is as the LaQuint Allen stan on this show. We're only talking about that because Tyson Campbell. Raywan Lane crushed both the opening punts. He did his part to ensure the Kansas City Chiefs would be scoreless in the first quarter. And then here came Thornton beating veteran franchise corner Tyson Campbell when after Dewey had the excellent pass rush. So if you want to wonder why you're not talking Ray Lane when you should be, I'm blaming Tyson Campbell. I said what I said, Travis T. Holmes.
I mean, if you want to get into your hot takes, then and that's the only thing that's
just did.
Hot. Yeah, I don't think that's the hottest of hot. It's not scorching. I get you, but and I know it's not really a depth conversation, which is what we've been talking about all today's podcast, but it's kind of wild to not talk about it with kind of everybody in the Duval kind of murmuring about it in the group chats and then the Discords and everything else. But let me get into it. Let me just set it up. So going into the season, I believe that most of the media and the fan base kind of all understood that Trevor Lawrence would need a little bit of time to kind of acclimate to this complex offense, right? Like, I think they all knew.
Listen to the Duval Dive.
Right, we kind of tell them up early on, but he needed some time to kind of acclimate with the receivers, kind of grow within the offense involved, and all of that. Like, it was obvious that he put the work in the offseason, and it pulled out a pretty gritty win on Monday, right? Like, I think we all agree that all that happened. But does that make what Dan Hicken, 1010XL said on Wednesday? Does that make his comments incorrect? Is kind of my question. And for those who haven't seen it, it's okay. We got you. I just want you to. I want your opinion.
Concerned about the quarterback position as we get better and try and win. Well, that's all I'm saying.
Well, you're not concerned, but why are the coaches then?
I don't know.
Why is the organization?
I have not seen
certainly concerned.
I don't see it.
I'm telling you, they're concerned.
Okay. Well,
I'm telling you that.
Okay.
So, and again,
well, then they can change quarterback.
So his comments are basically that the coaches and the front office are concerned for Trevor Lawrence. They're concerned about the quarterback. And I'm like, I want to know your thoughts before I even give mine, because I thought it was very interesting.
Here's where I'll be fair. First of all, and this is not me disrespecting radio men. They're showmen first and foremost, right? They're
Sure.
I mean, you and I are showmen, but there's plenty of radio personalities out there who don't know ball that try to talk it, that are showmen first with their hot takes, right? This speech doesn't happen if the Jags lost to the Chiefs unless Trevor threw 3 interceptions, right? This is happening because they won. And
So you think that conversation is happening because they won?
That statement is happening because they won. Now, if they had lost and Trevor didn't make any mistakes and the run game was stymied, and that's why it happened. Like maybe Trevor, had, let's say, 58% completion and over 200 yards passing, just for whatever reason they didn't get in the end zone because reasons. I don't know. There's no way that statement happens. And the part that's
so
incredible.
You think he's leaning into the negative stuff that happened in the game and still acknowledging that they're
keeping the
concerned.
high from getting too high. That's exactly what I think is happening.
Ooh, okay, interesting. I think that's it. From my perspective, I just think it's part of the evaluation. Like, folks know it's going to be an ongoing evaluation of an NFL quarterback throughout the whole season. Like, we all know that, and that can change.
On this show, I'm the host, so you could see why I pull the performance element out, right?
So it changes week to week. It's going to be some ups. It's going to be some downs,
right?
And I think everybody, including Dan, should probably be high on Trevor this week. After the game he just put on the film on Monday, based on his play on the field, but you could rightfully be down on him as soon as a week from today. Just being real. Like,
last week, plenty of people were down on him, right?
Like before Monday, folks had questions, and I'm okay with that. Like, if the bonehead plays were to pop up for the next few weeks, those same questions would probably be right back in most people's minds. Like, I don't know if it was a blatantly wrong take from Dan versus just maybe potentially older information from the offseason and early season conversations.
He hasn't convinced yet. That's okay. I'll allow that. Do I think it's a great presentation? The coaches are concerned. Did you talk?
I would call it ill-timed at worst. Like, at best, ill-timed coming off Trevor's great game on Monday.
But those are perfect hot takes. That's why I went with the performance direction, right?
Though we got to acknowledge that it was still some flunky stuff happened that shouldn't. I already talked about the delayed game. I already talked about the taking the sack where everybody in the stadium. Your mama knew.
Right, exactly. I got Robert in the comments. I was more pissed about Trevor throwing past the line of scrimmage. Absolutely correct take, Robert.
For like the second time in like 3 weeks or whatever. Yeah, man, it's just funny. But all those bonehead the game glitching moments, whatever you want to call it, they're all part of Lawrence's like ongoing evaluation, right? Like, I think the front office loves his grit. They love his leadership. They love the effort they get from him this season. And especially recently, I just think it's not a 1 week evaluation. He's going to have to continue progressing and getting rid of those inexcusable quote unquote plays while increasing those big plays. And I think in that conversation, I think everybody's going to probably land on where he is looking back on the season. So I don't think it was a terrible take by Dan. I just think it was absolutely the worst time to have it.
But again, that's what makes a good hot take too. And see, I even had Callie Jack in the comments going, "You're losing me, student of the game." And then he realized, "Oh, I got you."
He's like, "I got where you're going. All right, cool."
No, now, if you want to ask me from a football perspective, stupid. Absolutely, the coaches are concerned. Are you kidding me?
They may have been. To be clear, I talked to a few people
last week.
That's what I'm saying.
Today, what they
may have been concerned in the offseason.
Yeah, exactly. What they're seeing is my coaching looks like it's finally working. This is the happiest they've been with Trevor today.
Ooh, that's a hard one. That's a whole conversation in and of itself when you say this is the happiest, because it was great. But again, it wasn't perfect. And I think that's the whole point of it is what are you aiming against? Are you looking to be a team that's going to be good or moderately good and reasonably solid? Are you looking for a team that's going to win the AFC South? Or are you looking for a team that's going to be an eventual Super Bowl contender, eventual Super Bowl? That's not who Trevor has to be today.
Right.
Today's not the aiming point. The aiming point is entering the playoffs and what do they look like in week 17? And that's also a fair retort. Like, I'm not here to argue for one side or the other. I'm just saying I get all sides of that conversation.
This season is a marathon, though, and the fact that you see growth, and man, if you're coaching, you can't just be like, "Oh, well, me coaching him and him doing that was just a flash in the pan. I bleep and quit." No, like, you build on that. That is that. And I don't know enough about Trevor's psyche. Frankly, he's a tough read when it comes to that. Unless he's under pressure, then he's more likely to make mistakes. Which does not make him unique among quarterbacks. Let me be clear. Even Thomas Edward, Patrick Bieber, Brady had that problem. But the punchline is this, Travis. If in the coaching realm, right, to see that game start the way it did and Trevor come out the way he did by also hitting both Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr., guys he's had trouble hitting down the field, all the stuff he's been struggling with clicked that night. Maybe they're concerned, but that number's reduced today, which leads me to agree with football wise with the concept of this ain't the best time to drop that take.
Right, like that's all really am getting at. It's like that just could have been something that maybe was a concern in the offseason, and maybe it was concern in the first few weeks, and just saying, hey, eventually we'll have to look back and see where he lands, and maybe this might be something that I might be concerned about eventually, but we'll see kind of where it goes. And again, he's going to have high weeks, he's going to have low weeks. We'll see where it lands.
Exactly, that's a great take. I like that.
But I wanted to wrap it up. And again, I know it's not a depth thing, but I consider it a depth thing because we already talked about Trevor Lawrence's like incredible game this week and the way he willed these guys into a victory with his legs and his arms. But also, I wanted to give shout out to Brian Thomas Jr. Again, we already talked about it with Devin Lloyd. If the disrespect is high or the questioning of his game is high and publicly loud, then also the apology and the respect will be equally loud. Like, so we will do that. So BTJ, shout out, bro. He is becoming a savvy vet with that push off. And I know folks are going to say he ain't push off. Nah, bro, I'm a DB at heart. Like, I'm a DB in skill and heart. And as a DB, when the DB starts to jump, he gets pushed in the perfect, beautiful DeAndre Hopkins way, where you can now, where it's like, oh, no, that was perfect.
You can see it
beautifully done. It was beautifully done at the last moment. Like, it was a perfect throw from Trevor Lawrence, while also being a perfectly timed, subtle push off by BTJ in the DeAndre Hopkins way. And only you can kind of get away with it. Like, I'm very happy to see that.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see that from BT because it's such a small thing that the younger receivers don't generally get. And as a DB, I'm like, oh, they're never gonna call that. Oh, that was good. That was so smooth. Like it was good. When I saw it, I was like, let me run that back. That was nice. Good stuff.
And to your point, I didn't even have a hint until that reverse angle, right?
Right. You couldn't even tell. And that's the point, because the ref couldn't tell either.
Angles are everything when you're officiating. Like, it's not as obvious as somebody applying to be the juggernaut. I mean, they even have red helmets in KC, right? And knocking a dude over mid-route. This was not that. Right.
That's it, man. And also, shout out to Dan Griffiths for pointing out that Devin Lloyd is 5th on the team in receiving yards, technically speaking, because he has 129 interception return yards from opposing quarterbacks. He was theoretically or technically 5th on the team in receiving yards, and he is one long interception return from potentially being 4th on the team, while Brenton Strange is going to be out for the next 4 games. So fingers crossed for more interceptions for Devin Lloyd, just because I want to be able to say your Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver 4 is Devin Lloyd. I just think that would just sound hilarious. It's just one of those things you could never bet on at Hard Rock or FanDuel or wherever else.
I hear you with that, but I will say this. Once again, the officials have screwed over Parker Washington. If they called that pass interference, he would have more yards in the air.
I mean, yeah, that was rough, man. That was so bad. But yeah, any other comments we want to knock out before we call this bad boy a day and get over the club Jaguars? See what these fellas are talking about.
I mean, this. I want to hear your take, because Storm of the Desert, as he often does here on this show, has a fascinating thing.
Jags are never gonna get another quarterback as talented as Trevor. They just gotta teach the hero ball out of him. He went years where he had to be the hero in order for them to have even a tiny chance to win. Jeez.
We touched on this loosely before, but I don't know that it's ever been worded quite like that. I know we have touched on the rookie had to get he had to stop being mired by Urban's coaching after year 1, right? And then,
so interesting. I'm not disagreeing with any of the take or any of the comment that was Storm the Desert just made, but I am curious about it because overall, I look at it like this. Yes, Trevor is talented. A lot of guys in the league are talented. Yes, Michael Jordan is talented. Yes, there's a lot of guys who never made it to the NBA that are talented, because it's not always about the talent. Yes, Jay Cutler was talented, but he wasn't the leader that he needed to be. Yes, he could, or he wasn't the clutch guy he needed to be. So in all the ways, I'm like, yeah, Trevor, they may not find another guy who was as talented as Trevor Lawrence. And I might even agree with that thought process, but it's not always about the talent when it's about winning. can you win? Can you find the way to win? Like, that's why I actually appreciated this Monday win from Trevor more than anything. It's because they came away with the win and they found a way to do it when the other ways just wouldn't work as well for him. Maybe he couldn't complete these passes because of everything that was going on with the, maybe still not fully being on the same page with the receivers on all the plays. Now you have the out route that was run by Brian Thomas Jr. That he sits it down at the same spot he's thinking he's supposed to be in the zone, and Trevor's expecting to go out. Like, they still have these little quirks that they got to figure out, and I'm okay with those things, but also I'm like, it's not always about the talent. Just win, and then you figure out the other stuff later. And that's kind of where I am with the media kind of conversation. Is I don't view it as like, you're not going to find a better guy that's as talented as, I don't give a damn if Trevor Lawrence is Trent Dilfer. Like, just win. We'll win the Super Bowls. It'll be Eli Manning. Win the Super Bowls, and we'll figure out the rest of who you are when you retire. Just so I don't care if they have another quarterback as talented. Do they have another guy who can win? Cool.
And the aforementioned that you mentioned, both what was it, Dilfer and
Eli Manning.
Eli Manning had defenses around them that were featured and talented.
Yeah,
that's starting to happen.
If Trevor has to be Peyton Manning to win a Super Bowl, cool. If Trevor has to be Trent Dilfer to win a Super Bowl, cool. Whatever you gotta be that. As long as your team is winning, and you can let the other people write your narrative. That doesn't matter as long as you're wearing that ring when they're doing it.
Yeah, and Social Alki comes in. T. Wiggs made me look at Trevor completely different. I no longer compare him to Mahomes, Burrow, or Allen. I think about Roethlisberger or McNair. Yeah, absolutely. You shouldn't compare quarterbacks to Patrick LaVon Mahomes II or Josh Allen or even Lamar Demetrius Jackson, while we're on that topic, right? Like, or Joey Burr. The quarterbacks like Joey Burr won't exist anymore after him. I'm convinced of that, right? Trevor Lawrence is his own dude, and I feel like, where I think he has the advantage is he's a lot more likable than some other guys that played quarterback. I don't think Patrick LaVon Mahomes II is unlikable, but you never hear anybody complaining about Trevor's brother. I'm just saying as an example.
I actually think it's going to be beneficial to Trevor to be a guy who's as good as he's been growing up, like high school, college, etc., to then be as bad as he was in his early years, because of a lot of it's the surrounding circumstances, a lot of it's the coaching, some of it's still him also, like being clear. But I've often said this about dating, and I'm gonna just pull the wall down for a second. I say this about dating all the time. The best people in life aren't always the prettiest people. The best people in life are normally the people that had an ugly moment when they were growing up. Like, I want to be real clear. So, like, if you are beautiful now, but you were just terrible looking as a child, you probably got good insides and outsides now. Like, when you finally grew into your body. That's how I feel about the Trevor situation. Like, he was great originally, then he had the bad moments, but the bad moments also made him work on some other things that may make him eventually like great in the NFL. I think you need to go through some of that growth in that intermittent, like that valley, if that makes sense. So that's kind of from that perspective, I'm like, you know what? Cool. I mean, it's good that he had it happen to him early in the NFL. So now he doesn't like coast on talent or something like that, like we've seen with so many quarterbacks. And now he knows the grind and what it truly takes to win. Now that he has a coach in his ear, kind of telling him the same thing.
By the way, you mentioned Eli Manning earlier. He also had a fantastic offensive line. And I mentioned those things because franchises also win Super Bowls along with quarterbacks, not for nothing.
Robert says the ups and downs are killing me. Cardiac caps. Yeah, I'm with you, bro. That's why I always said it was Bitcoin.
You knew here? Like, what?
Yeah, I always said the Jaguars was going to be Bitcoin for a little bit. Like, it's going to be a little up and down. You're going to have to figure out where it settles. But yeah, that's what it is, bro. But Kyle, let them know where you can be found, sir.
You just going okay, sure. Of course, I'm Kyle Nass, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings for your Jacksonville Jaguars at Fans First Sports Network. Football Insiders, actually, that portion of the site. Make sure you check that out. I got to do a better job shouting that out. They had that branding out there for a minute. Anyways, check out all that. Of course, I will be doing more writing for the Orlando Magic sooner than later. It's going to be a little different here in a couple weeks when the Magic have their season opener on a Wednesday night. Thanks, NBA. But nonetheless, the Duval dive will still come to you. It just may be a little different that week. That's all. That being said, make sure you check that out. Also, Saturday at noon, I will be covering The UCF Knights will be traveling to Nippert Stadium to battle the Cincinnati Bearcats. Make sure you check that out back at goldbanneret.com and the Night Shift podcast, as well as the Bolt Blitz Uncut, as we examine just how on earth the Chargers get out of this hole they're in with all their low linemen injured. To see night and day covering these two teams is insane on the offensive line. But hey, at the end of the day, I asked the question during the Bolt Blitz Uncut, Travis, raise your hand if you cover a team that's beating the Chiefs. And I had to do this with two hands.
All right, cool. I mean, you guys already know. Yeah, man, you guys already know. BigCatCountry.com. Lock it in. And Travis D. Holmes on all the socials. I mean, yeah, we're here to obviously talk Jacksonville Jaguars football. So if you're not, what are you doing? But also, yeah, I talk about more than just the Jaguars. We talk about all NFL, all college football, even a little bit of Canadian football if you guys want to. And yeah, Preston says he's new here. Another stream from y'all before Sunday. Of course, we're going to have the game preview on Friday with Football Talk with Bo Crouch, who covers the Seattle Seahawks. Also, so that's going to be a dope experience. So lock it in there. And yeah, and then Duval Dive. If you're listening to us right now, please click that like button. Help us out. It helps us out so much. Just click the little button. Just like, yep, that one. Yeah, the like button. And if you're listening to us on the audio, please rate and review us. Help us out there. Again, it costs you nothing, but it helps us out tremendously. Keep this bad boy growing. Keep this thing in that algorithm so more folks can see us, and keep talking Duval, because these comments don't come from nowhere. It's because y'all keep finding them, because y'all keep commenting and y'all keep liking, and we appreciate y'all for it.
Always, man. Yeah, I am set back. A, how many comments we get from you Duval divers. B, how intelligent they are. And heck, not for nothing, I didn't have a chance to pull it up. Even a 49er in the comments saying, I see you, Jags, after taking care of the Chiefs. You know, it was different after they weren't playing against each other no more. I'm not even mad at that as a member of the faithful in my spare time. So, you know,
I appreciate it.
But yeah, an honor, joy, and privilege to not only have the Duval divers in the comments, but to do this show the way I do with my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes. For all of you, thanks once again. But until next time, everyone, class dismissed.